Welcome to the Voice of Bold Business Radio, the show about ways to stay competitive in a changing market, break through business plateaus, and respond to the changing expectations of today's customers. Your host, Jess Dewell, is a rapid growth entrepreneur, consultant, and business advocate with a 20-year track record of business excellence. She candidly discusses how to achieve your growth strategy and realize your company's unfulfilled potential. Now, here's Jess.
You're in the right place for conversations about current needs that we as business leaders face regarding technology, customer expectations, and quickly changing markets. This program is about what it means to reach our short-term goals and increase our confidence in long-term positioning within our role and within our company. This is program 200, What to Do with Failed Business Decisions. We have an expert panel, both of whom you have seen before, and I'm so glad to have them back because this is a hard topic to talk about. And the women that are with me today, we're going to dive right in and just share and do what we do best so that you can learn from our experiences, relate a little, and maybe have another idea of how to solve the problems that you're facing or how to integrate the failures you haven't yet after our show today. Heidi Mazur is a 12-year-strong lifestyle entrepreneur for improving health as a young, living essential oils business owner. She also is a 25-year software developer veteran that works on product development and solves next-generation problems. Chloe Edwards is a motivational speaker and mentor who works with adoptees who feel lost or alone and learn how to have a positive mindset to build their own self-confidence and be a leader in their own lives. Women, ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Super stoked to be here.
Oh yeah, I'm glad because I'm glad that you are here also. This is a show that I've been looking forward to do. We're going to answer this question. We're going to answer the question that is, when one of our business decisions fail, can we live with it? And then what do we do next? So Heidi, would you tell us your experience? When a business decision fails, can we live with it? And what do we do next?
We've all heard this common quote, live and learn. When we make a business decision and it fails, we do have to live with it. We have to learn to accept that there will be failure and learn from it. When we have to look at the silver lining of things, that's where wisdom comes from making mistakes. In a business, a wise business person needs to see the good in any failed business decision and be able to capitalize on it by gaining experience and knowledge to prevent making the same mistakes that it caused the failure in the first place. So learning to fail is a part of life, not just in business, but in our personal lives as well. It is our human being trait that we are not perfect. So I'd like to share just a couple of my failed business decisions.
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay. No specific examples per se, but just in general. As a software developer for over 25 years, I have had my share of coding mistakes that affected the end users and implementing the wrong type of architecture with our development team to support a new business need and to be able to maintain this feature for many years to come. When that happens, we have to keep moving on and develop the code as is because it might be too expensive to start over again. But if that opportunity occurs and we do get a chance to rewrite it from scratch again for the second or the third time, we do learn from those previous times and do better the next time round. And technology is always changing, and we as developers have to keep learning new ways of coding things. And on the other side of things, from a Young Living Essential Oils perspective, there have been many times where I either pushed too hard on someone or I didn't push enough. And both of those failed decisions caused me potential sales. And this is very common when you are in an MLM company. You just learn from it and try it again. Eric Worre, who is a network marketing trainer, has said, plan, do, review. Then make a better plan and repeat. And this is good advice for all walks of businesses.
Chloe, When a business decision that you make fails, how do you live with it? And then what can you, and then us learning from you, do next?
So one of my favorite quotes, following along what Heidi has so well informed us about, one of my favorite quotes is from Confucius, saying, "Our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall." I really hold true to that, just because I think through starting this business through Pineapple Mindset, I just put so much fear and intimidation onto myself because I was afraid of failing. But failing and not taking action honestly leads to the same result, nothing. But at least with failing, I'm learning something. I can grow from it. I can improve. Where not taking action at all, I'm just stuck exactly where I am. So I would rather fail big and fall hard so I can get the biggest learning from it. In my past positions as marketing manager and coming up with different online advertisements for like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, there's so many fails that can happen. You have wrong copy, you don't have an image that relates to a customer very well, and you end up putting in maybe $100+ or more, determing on how intense you are with your advertising budget. But then you don't get that result or that conversion, but now you've learned from it, and I can understand, okay, so that copy or like that type of CTA doesn't work. So let's do some more A/B testing to come up with something that's going to be better in the future. And so honestly, I say, if you're going to fall, at least have a plan for if you fall. So again, with an A/B testing, you do plan on falling. So let's test it out. And when you do fall, learn, grow, and still keep taking action.
I heard you both say, keep going, get back up, take the next step. And action is one of my all-time favorite words. Listening to both of you, there are some things, that come up because I'm thinking back to, I could even say right now, I'm in the midst of pre-event crazy. And anybody who's ever planned an event in any scale knows some context of what that means. Then you add personality on top of it. And then you add all the other little details that you didn't think about, forgot to plan, all of those things. And they get heavier and heavier and bigger. And I know personally when I fail, one of the things that I hate to do, that I'm learning how to do, is to ask for help even in crisis. Ask for help because most of the time it's not a real crisis, but it's a crisis to me. And if I'm waiting until I have a crisis, what ends up happening is, so how do I take care of it? I forget about the people who are already part of the project, who are already part of the team, who I can still call on because they're willing and ready and support so much and care so much that they will be there at the drop of a hat, pick up the phone, talk me back from the ledge, or at least say, of course. And now, what you gonna do next? Of course, and act. And so I'm thinking about that because in that moment and in that heaviness and that crazy, it can be so hard to remember the information that you just shared. So is there a way that when you're in the middle of the crazy, whatever your crazy is, right? So I get crazy. I happen to be in the middle of that right now. And I'm thinking, what would I do when I can't remember the advice that Heidi and Chloe have just shared? How do you deal in the triage side of things?
I mean, I think that failing is pretty much just humility and sharing and reaching out for help, which is vulnerability. Again, like huge pillars within Pineapple Mindset of just growing and relying on your community. And so for me, my close friends and significant others and family, I like to bring them into the fold before I'm in that crisis. I say, hey, I know I'm usually running with my head cut off. We all know this. But if you think that I am getting a little bit too stressed out, or you think that I'm a little bit over my head at the moment, tell me, sit me down.
I probably am.
to
Yeah.
just because I remember like back in college when I was studying for my GMAT, I was going psycho, just diving into the studying. I could not focus on anything else. I was causing like just me into a little stress ball. And it was my friends that had to be like, hey, Chloe, I'm taking you out for a bike ride. We're not going to focus on the GMAT. Let's do this. I wouldn't have done that for myself. I wouldn't have reached out to my friend for help, but because she knew where my head is usually at and like what's a normal crazy level,
Right.
they were able to assist. And so I just say being vulnerable from the very beginning, having that community and grow. And that's how I would deal with, any type of failure and stressing going on.
Note to self, have somebody looking over your shoulder for you before you get started is what I just heard.
Love it.
That's brilliant. I would have never thought to do that. This is actually brand new information in the world of Jess's mind and between Jess's ears that I'm like, oh, okay. Who would have thunk? My husband does a good job, but that's only by the time I get home. That's only between the time I get to the family and then until the time I leave the family to go back. And there's more than that could be cultivated and shared. And I bet you I have it. I just have never asked for it or planned for that. So very interesting to dwell on. How about you, Heidi?
Well, I can't say much about that side of things because when we're in a computer crisis, your logic side of the brain needs to turn on and you need to figure out all of the steps. You need to retrace your steps logically. There is no feelings. You just get the job done.
Truth.
And it better be the right one this time.
Oh, I know. Oh, okay. So that kind of thing here, and now I'm going into mom mode, right? Every day when we come home, we put our keys in a certain place. So then when we had a child and now we have a dog, so all of this stuff is always going on. The only way you know where things are going to be is if you put them where you know they're supposed to be. So it inevitably fails. And by the way, this translates to business on so many levels. Mom, I can't find my lunchbox. Where did you see it last? Mom, I don't know where my shoes are. Where did you take them off? Mom, blah, 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 right? And it goes on, and you're asking the question. And in reality, at work, what do we tend to do? We tend to jump in and save. Jump in and save. And in fact, there are times as a mom, I do the same thing. Jump in and save. I don't think I have the time. I'm not going to let this go. Right? On and on and on, depending on where the pressure is and how we respond to said pressure. When something is in crisis mode or has already failed and we're picking up the pieces from it, what is our reaction? So there's a self-awareness piece, I think, that I hear you saying, Heidi, where we've got to just take emotion out of it.
See, I'm curious from a coding standpoint. So again, super logical. I can understand that. When I was still trying to learn HTML and CSS, my friends were teaching me kind of like the FAQs. If you can't do this, try this. If this doesn't work, check this. Within your business, do you have kind of that like laid out maybe mentally or maybe written down?
Written down? No way. No way.
No way?
Everything is different and there's so many pieces to the puzzle. You just learn it. When you're trying to solve a problem, you retrace your steps. Okay, where did you, take your shoes off? Did you leave them by the front door? If you did, then go down path A. Don't go down B. Okay, if you left them by the door and they're still not there, then go down path C and not path D. It's just logical retracing, and you just got to work together. And sometimes us as developers, we have a very big ego. Like our code is always right. It is never wrong. So when we do our own unit testing, we don't always find those things, but I'll be darned if I let something slip by on another programmer's code that I have to create. I will get it. I will make it crash. That's how I do my coding. But anyway, I mean, if there was, a big problem and it's a production error, we seriously, who cares? What's at fault? What was done was done. It's a moot point how we got there. How do we resolve the problem going forward? Can we fix this in the database and then get this user on his or her way? And then let's not do that again.
Ooh, okay. This is really interesting because you were saying path A, path B, and you asked a really good question, Chloe, because now I'm just thinking, okay. And then the next thing she said is there's no step-by-step. We live in a world where we want somebody who's already had this problem to tell us how to get out of it. And what I just heard Heidi say, what my experience says, Chloe, I'm pretty sure your experience probably says the same, is that everything, for as much similarity as there is, will be different. There is no how to deal with failure.
I totally agree.
Yeah. So if there's no step by step and we are on our own, nobody else can pull us out of that. We have to pull ourselves out. Awareness matters. So when we're in the middle of failure, or we've slept on it and we're not as crazy, or we have to turn off our emotions and compartmentalize to get the thing done in the moment, whatever that is, right? Whatever that situation is, how do you do a check-in for yourself and having some self-awareness that says, oh, I am now fixing fail. Or I should probably say that differently. I am now fixing a failure. Might be mine, might not be mine. I am now fixing a failure.
You just zone in and you just get the job done.
And in the middle of it, do you go, oh, look, I'm actually failing right now? Or, hey, this failed and I'm fixing it. Do you ever have that moment in the middle or before, right? I'm thinking about that moment before it's like, this failed. I can choose to be crazy. I can choose to not. This failed. I can choose to accept responsibility and figure out how to help, or I can blame and walk away, right?
Absolutely.
There's that moment of awareness that I'm trying to get to. Do you have that? Sometimes
Yes.
It's in the middle. Sometimes it's
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And depending on how bad it affects the users, you have that moment of guilt, like, I can't believe I did that. Oh, I feel so bad they had to go through this. Okay, take a deep breath, grab your humility, and just move forward and try to fix it and make it better and make it right for that end user.
It's so interesting because as a more technical side, right, with math, it needs equal 5. And if it's not equaling 5, clearly there's a problem. I'm failing. There's more of that focused failure, maybe not focused, more observant failure, where a lot of times with, at least with my business, when it comes with more, I want to help people emotionally, I want to help people become leaders, failing always looks a little bit different. And I can't say at this step, we're clearly not here, this is a failure. And so when it comes more as like a self-conscious type of awareness, for me, I always go back to like that journaling, the time sitting down with yourself, or talking with someone else that knows you super well. I think with that aspect, with a more untangible failure, I guess you could say that, that's how I would try to identify and try to observe where the failing is happening. Is it I'm not reaching a step? Am I not understanding something? Is this just not sitting with me well?
So here's one of my biggest fears, which, by the way, I know is not going to happen, but we might as well share it here. What if nobody came to the growth summit that I planned so hard for the last 6 months, right? I would call that, and I'm jumping ahead, and if nobody comes, I would call that a pretty big failure. And I would probably, I'll be honest, I would curl up in the floor and I would cry, and I don't know when I'd come out, and the dog would be worried about me, and my son would be worried about me, and my husband might be worried about me after a couple of days. He knows me a little well enough to know how that kind of stuff goes. But the point being, right, when you plan so hard for something and it doesn't go the way that you want, is it really failure? And the answer is yes, and it's a lesson, and it's an opportunity to explore more. Wow, there was a reason nobody came to this. Do I need to hold up the mirror? Do I need to look at my process? Do I need to look at the team that helped put this together? So now we've gone from this in the moment crisis mode kind of concept of awareness to a very important point that you brought up, Chloe, is sometimes we don't know. We don't know it's going to fail until it's over, and it's failed. And this is a big project. So, I think about this and like I said, yes, that's always in the corner of my brain. However, I know that is unacceptable and would never happen. But what if it did? How would I react? How would my team react? Where would their hearts and minds be if all of the work that they put into it fell flat? And then me as a leader, right? The one who is in charge of everything in this particular case, not only do I have to pick myself up off the floor, I also am holding a bigger space of, well, look what we did do. And let's see if we can find that gap. And we have more time because we're not doing the next one of these for another 6 months or a year, whatever that cycle, system, rhythm turns out to be. So then this comes back to this concept of, I don't know, some people call it a critique, some people call it post-mortem, which I'm not really fond of that. Some people, just call it a review. I'm a big fan of the review piece. What worked well, what didn't work, and what can we do better or different next time, right? Those 3 concepts. And to me, it's as important to do it for failure as it is for success. However, it's really important to do it for failure because it's hard to grapple, right? You've got all this stuff between your ears and there's not concrete. It's not always an equation to be solved. It's not always something that could have one lever and have changed. And so what does that make you think of, Chloe?
So immediately that makes me think of how I definitely want to do a review or a recap very quickly, right after an event, right after a project or whatnot. Yeah. And I think you made a super valid point that planning for failure is also the same as planning for success. And so when I plan for an event, so this past August, I planned a fundraiser for this local dog shelter. Ideally, I wanted to raise a shoot ton of money, like over 4 digits. I wanted to get all these people through the door, like 40 plus some people. That wasn't going to happen. I realized that was the hit, like that was the high of high success, right? So then I started making tiers of success. Of like, I'd be happy with this, I'd be happy with this. I'd also start making tiers of failures because when I know in my head, what's the worst that could possibly happen? No one shows up, no money is raised. But if I know that is pretty much the worst of the worst, then I know how to plan around it. So kind of for your event. Yes. If you know, like the worst of the worst, not one person shows up. That is right. So unlikely. Like really it is. Especially if you have like maybe one person you're super in contact with, right? Mm-hmm. And if that summit happens where only one person comes, I do not think that would happen. But that means think of the benefit for that person. They have like one-on-one, like mentoring opportunities with all your speakers, all your amazing resources. Right. And I'm sure that person would get so much value out of it, talk your head off about how amazing this event was, and then start recommending you. And in the end, that isn't a complete failure. It wasn't ideal. It was a tier of success, maybe a lower tier. A tier of success. I agree with you completely. And I love the way that you have just phrased that. You're shaking your head, Heidi. Mm-hmm. What's going through your mind?
I'm thinking when you're saying events and things, and I'm thinking vendor events when I do a booth for oils. She's right. Ideally, I would love to have like 40 people at my table over a course of 4 hours, let's say. And but really, how much time can you really spend with those 40 people? Like 2 minutes? That it's not really a deep conversation. So I would rather have a tier of success and maybe have a good conversation with 5 people and spend that good quality time with them and answering, maybe 5 or 6 questions rather than just one, and then move on to the next one. So yes, a tier of success is just perfect.
It's interesting because in every part of our conversation, whether it was conscious or not, we always went back to the before the beginning. What were we thinking about before we took that first action forward? And how does that impact the actions that we will take? It's one of the reasons that you two are too fun to talk to, because in that sense, our minds are working the same way. And so this concept of acting and then planning, because I took away, right? One of the things, and I've had events, by the way, that nobody has showed up. What did I take away? I have a template. Now, that was a while ago that nobody showed up. I also have events that we have sold out. We have sold out every single year we have done them. And so templates, the whole purpose of an event that we plan for the failure and we plan for the success is we have a blueprint, a template for ourselves. Will it work for anybody else? Maybe. Can it be repeated in our organizations? Yes. Could I take my template and give it to you, Chloe or Heidi? Sure, but it's not going to work the same because we already talked about that. Every situation is so different. The way that we're dealing with it and reacting and responding before, during, and after is so different. There are just pieces that we can take.
And also just like how our minds work and like how we get motivated. So
Yes.
For me, I do get motivated on, that little bit of fear, right? So it's like, if that is my biggest failure, that's like, oh, I can't have it happen. Versus some people, they can't focus on that. If that is in the back of their mind, that's all they're going to think of. So they need to have like maybe this huge goal setting and super smart goal and very detailed and step-by-step action. Because who knows, how someone, is motivated / how their brain works. Maybe they only want to have one goal, maybe just one failure, because I think all that stuff.
Okay, those people got to come to Talk 1 to 3 of us. We will take you out for a virtual coffee or in person if we are close by, because just one thing that we have a goal that we can fail on. How are you doing just one thing, Chloe?
I can't do one.
Right? Me neither. Are you just doing one thing, Heidi?
No.
Yeah, I don't.
No.
And
I multitask all the time.
Oh, you do? See, I don't multitask. I can't do that. But I do more than one thing in the course of 3 days or a week or even one day, right? There are too many fun things out there to learn from, right? But I love that you say that, Chloe, because there are some people who want to chunk it down that small. And I didn't mean to laugh at you out there who might fall into this category. That is a real thing. When we're building success and we're trying to take tiny steps, do we just do that one thing? And by the way, that's something that many successful people tell us to do. Isn't that right? Do one thing, figure out how to do it well. How do we know when to give something up?
I go back to the webinar that we had, episode 96, the last one I was on, 196. To understand what should I be giving up, what isn't important. Again, just going through, is it bringing me joy? Is it bringing me stress? Is it just a moderator? And to make sure that my life is more filled with the joys and something that motivates me and keeps me going. And if it's something that's bringing me down, either I need to cut it out or alter it to make it become a lifter or a joy. And maybe that's cutting back. So for me, I'm involved with a lot of volunteer boards. And I love volunteering. I love putting on events, helping the community. But I realized that if I want to bring my heart to it, and right now my heart wasn't in it anymore. And so I said, hey, I'm going to step back for this quarter. I need you to know that. I gave them enough gave them enough ahead of time notice, and said maybe I will come back and then I'll be way more productive and way more with it. But right now you're causing me some stress.
You're listening to the voice of Bold Business Radio. In every program, we share stories, tips, and concepts that benefit short-term goals and increase confidence in long-term positioning. Stay current and receive programs to continue sparking ideas about growth strategy by subscribing to the program at voiceofboldbusiness.com. Now, back to Jess.
You are listening to the Voice of Bold Business Radio. This is program 200. What do we do with failed business decisions? And with us is Heidi Mazur and Chloe Edwards. And you know what? this conversation so far, we just went right in. And you know what else I learned? I learned that these two women are going to be great to not only know and have in my corner, but you may want to reach out and talk to them too, specifically because look at that. They were helping me solve problems I don't even have yet. They were all in. They were feeling some of that fear. They know what some of that stuff is. And so by putting that example out there on the table, it shows you how the people around you can really jump in and say, yeah, okay, maybe there is some tough love there. Yep, that failed. Now what? Yep, it wasn't as bad as you thought. Now what? Right? And being able to decide what do we do and how do we go forward. So Heidi, I know right before we went to the break, we were talking about giving it up. How do we know when we've tried enough and we just have to walk away, like completely walk away? When you're thinking about the projects that you're doing in product development, do you walk away from things?
Sometimes you do. Most of the time you don't. You got to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
There are some pretty good programmers out there, and there's some pretty not so good ones. And the pretty good ones actually have to make up for the pretty not so good ones. And we just have to keep going. We have to clean up their mess and keep going. We have an end goal, a business feature that we need to implement, and we have got to do it in a timeline that was given to us by the business.
Constraints. And you know what? I actually think when we have conversations like this, it's easy to forget about the constraints, which is really great that you answered the way that you did so that we have the opportunity to remember what do we actually have to work with? What do we actually have control over? And what is handed to us? And handed to us might be what we decided at the beginning, right? I mean, if it's just us making the decision, what did we decide at the beginning? If it's part of our team, we are handing them these objectives. We are handing them something that says verbally, maybe unlikely written, but that this is where we're going. This is what we're going to do. And here's what we have to do it with. Ta-da! Exactly. Yeah. Have you ever received that? So let's say, and I'm just thinking back and trying to pull back into some of our experiences so that people understand how we're talking about failure here. So I know you have, Heidi, so I can't wait to hear this example. And I'm going to have to think back. And Chloe, I'm curious for you too, is when was a time that we were given the box, we were given the constraints, we were given everything, and we didn't know how we were going to get it done because we saw no realistic, logical reasoning from wherever this came from?
I like that, because people who make up these features, this big wish list that they want done in a business atmosphere, some things are just way out of line. You cannot do it. You just cannot, because like you said earlier, you are handed things. So we have code that we're still dealing with today that was written 15-ish years ago.
Wow.
We do not like. It is constraining us so bad for implementing new features that it is causing us to rewrite the entire application. And not just one, we have multiple that are being rewritten, and it takes years to rewrite these things.
It does. I've been there.
I mean,
not personally.
Besides having like codes you need to follow and having these, clients, I mean, what about bosses?
Right.
So, I mean, I worked at this international company where this application was already created. The functions were already there, the brand was already there, and I just had to work with it and somehow market this into the United States. And it was not created at all for the US. It had none of like the normal high-tech features that you need to be marketable, yet they wanted to spend X amount of dollars as well within Facebook advertisements. So it had all these constraints, and I just had to do it and like make this specific amount of revenue, not profit.
And to me, that drove me insane. The only way to get out of these constraints was to pretty much make a research study against it, to do interviews, look through the data and say, hey, it would actually be better if we just stopped marketing altogether because of these statistics.
Yeah. I love those. And those are hard, right? Those are really hard. I remember I've never coded a whole new system, but I led a team of technical developers through some of that. So I know how, Heidi, how you are and what you are facing on a fairly regular basis. And then Chloe, what you described. Yeah. And being able to then make a case that is sound and strong and logical enough that it has all the right pieces to have an open communication so that buy-in can come from above to what this suggestion is of let it go.
Because I think, they had different tiers of what they saw as success. And to me, that was just unreachable, unattainable. So let me change those tiers of success, or maybe change their view of what a failure would actually be of, okay, their failing was not working in Facebook marketing. I said, well, that's not actually a failure. Let me change your mindset to have, hey, if we stop doing the Facebook marketing, it actually becomes a profit.
Yeah.
So changing those tiers again.
Yep. Yeah. I remember when there was a time I was tasked with growing 5 companies that did the exact same thing, the exact same amount in the exact same time frame. But they charged radically different prices. So we went for the gamut from low cost, high volume to high cost, low volume. And it was all the same thing. And I was like, yeah, of course we can do that. And then I thought, what did I just say I could do? Some of us do that too. Yeah, I'm up for that challenge. And then you actually go back and think about and finish processing. And it's like, what? Huh? I don't get that. So when we make a commitment or we say yes, or we get the vision of where it's going to go, doesn't necessarily mean that we are capable or have the capacity to do that. Maybe it was a strategic partnership. Maybe it is a new feature. Maybe it is a new market development. And the biggest thing that has us miss our goals, not only from an overrun, but also from just being on time, is the fact that there was not enough thought that went in the beginning. The more we think at the beginning and the more we understand exactly what we have to where we're going, the better we are at adapting to the problems that we can't foresee when they come up. Because if we don't think enough ahead of time, we're dealing with stuff that's like, oh, duh, of course that's part of this problem. And that just adds time. When that extra added time causes, you know what it causes? It causes that can of worms where every single time there's a problem along the way that we're solving toward this end goal. Every single time there's a problem, that means we inadvertently end up in a discussion, tell me if you have been there, about is this exactly the path that we should be on? So not only are we on this path, but every single time there's a problem, we end up adjusting or pivoting just a little bit. Of course, things are going to be done over budget and not on time and after they were asked to be done because of the fact that there's too many cooks in the kitchen and there's revisiting at the wrong times. Where if we were revisiting all of those potential problems at the beginning, we have a better chance for success at the end. We have a better chance to get to that deliverable, to understand how, at which point in time, we're going to change the profitability of whatever internal process we have. We know that by doing this, we'll be able to save X amount of money to be able to replace the equipment we need to in 5 years because it's going to, start failing or whatever the case may be. So to me, what I've learned from every single time I've fallen down and every single fear I have about failing going forward is that I ask, have I thought about this enough? And I have decided what is enough in this situation. What do you think about that, ladies?
I say always reaching out to a team, always reaching out to, other people. That's why, Heidi, maybe you'll agree, but to start your own company, to manage something completely on your own, sometimes it kind of sucks. Like you want to
It does.
have people to bounce off ideas and to bring in these other perspectives and to, again, think of the things that you can't think of. So, I mean, even now, even though that, pineapple mindset is my own, I reach out to friends, experts to get their opinion, to bring in their viewpoints and things that most likely I'm missing. And I'm just being vulnerable for that and being humiliated. I don't know if that's not right, but
having humility and being humble. How about that? Being humble.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm being very humble, knowing that I will never know every viewpoint and every insight. And so just rely on the community and my support systems.
Exactly. And when we're talking about software development, you have to get your end user input and you have to get their perfect wish list. Because if they don't tell you their perfect wish list, you don't know where they want to end up in the end. If you find out in the middle, 50% done, that they wanted to go this way and you went that way because they didn't tell you they wanted to go that way, you are now your architecture is now wrong. And now you have to decide, do we continue on this path or do we go a little bit towards their wish list way? That's a business decision. It's all based upon time and money and resources for sure.
By the way, that is very important for consulting, onboarding clients, coaching, any service provider, any technology that is being sold, any service. I mean, I expect that kind of thing from my hairstylist. if they start cutting and we haven't talked about it fully, we have a problem in the end, right? I mean, well, hair grows back. Well, whatever. It's not right now. But you make such a good point in the sense that not knowing until halfway through is going to be the biggest recipe for not just failure in the moment. That's failure in the moment is fixable. It's that future. It's that credibility, the ability to deliver what, when, the way, so that people want to talk about you and have that amazing experience and say, you know what? I don't know how to solve that problem, but Chloe does. Or you know what? I was having lunch with Heidi the other day and she just went through something similar. Call her. Those are the types of things that when we're thinking ahead, we can help support. But you're right. In the middle, it compounds the problems and makes mountains out of molehills, and rightly so.
Even with like coaching people, I want to know what do you want your transformation to be after our even 15-minute consultation to a 30-minute to hour-long session. What do you want to get out of this so I can focus conversation on that? Because everyone wants to go every which way, and sometimes they don't even know themselves. But if we have a goal and a focus, then they will be happy, and then we will know if have we failed or have we not failed. And even in the middle, if I know what that goal is, I will know, are we quote unquote failing or deterring from the focus to are we on track? Are we succeeding?
Ooh, that right there, I think is such a key point is who is the container holder? We're talking about getting it set and getting off track and all that good stuff. Who is, and this is potentially a designated position within whatever relationship of people that are coming together for a project. Who is the container holder? It's set. We've said what we want at the end. Who says, nope, that's shiny object syndrome? Who says, nope, that's scope creep? Who says, nope, that has nothing to do with what we're doing right now? I actually know when I have that person and that role defined in any of my projects, we get done sooner, we get done better. We have somebody, who's like, this is their whole role is protect the outcome.
Yeah, so true. Scope creep happens all the time. And sometimes it can be a very bad detriment.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, you do need those. I call it the scope creep police.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to have them. Otherwise, you're just going on tangents and here and here and here and here, and it's just never going to get done. You have to make that hard decision to cut it off. No more scope creep. That's it. We've already said this in the beginning. This is where we're going to be going, and no more. And then once we actually deploy, like maybe phase 1, then we can add a little more scope creep after that, but not until we deploy phase 1.
It is that balance of creativity, talking through everything, to what you're saying, scope creep, wasting time, to getting completely off topic. It is that hard balance. And I feel like, that's where the leadership comes in, or maybe your client, who knows, whoever that container holder is, or boss.
Oh, well, see, sometimes this is my personal experience. If I am trying to hold and this is true in my role, and I'm going to do a past role first. There was a time where I had very loose leadership. Let's call it that, loose leadership. And so I had a lot of freedoms, and every once in a while, there was something that was just so cut and dry. It was just, this is the way that it is. Well, I was so used to something that was so loose that I was like, I don't even understand what this looks like. Can you talk with me? And then we went back to loose leadership. Figure it out. Like, what are you talking about? How do I figure something out when you said this is a hard stop here, and I'm not used to this hard stop here, to actually understand the objectives, what's behind it. And of course, sometimes I wasn't able to know just yet, right? Sometimes decisions are being made that weren't just yet. But I only had one side, and I knew there was a box, and I was like, seriously? So how do I set up my team to go, we're probably going to hit 1,000 walls to figure out what our container looks like so that we can actually get this done. How fast are you ready to run, right? I mean, that's the kind of stuff that we would have. So here I am thinking, in the roles that I'm in, sometimes I forget that not everybody's in my head. And so I talk to people before I come talk to my team to make sure I have a fairly complete idea. And it turns out, even when I have a fairly complete idea, everybody at one time or another on one project or another goes, what about this? And I'm like, that's great. It's yours. Take it, incorporate it. Because, there's always going to be, well, what about this? But then there's also we could also do that. And then it's up to me to go check in with that container, if I'm the container holder, right? What is that? And yes, to this point, and here's why, or no, and here's why. It does fit, we're going to set it aside and come back to it. But having that communication of, where do things meet? What are they looking like? How are we going to interact, so we are creating a space for everybody to create and to run forward with momentum, instead of weighing them down and having them have a hard time get started.
Do you think that scope creep, or any version of that, is a failed business decision in some way?
Do I think scope creep is a failed business decision? Every single time. Every single time you add something on to the original project, it dilutes it.
It does.
It compounds the complexity. It changes what available resources there are. And most likely, in every case, is going to require more money and more time.
Yeah, absolutely. So to learn from that, the next time you have a big project, what are you going to do different to help alleviate that scope creep? You're going to bring in those end users, and you're going to talk to them more. And you're going to start thinking out of the box. What if, and get those out of the way. And sometimes when you're on a project, people don't get ideas of what they really want until they see it. So you have to have some sort of a demo. Like if you're in software development, you have a screenshot of what maybe the new page might look like. And then they'll be like, yeah, this doesn't work. And this process, going from page 1 to page 2 isn't really quite right. Then it starts turning, and then they start thinking of things.
That's called what? Proof of concept?
I think so.
Okay, actually, I will be honest. I don't proof of concept every idea. I only proof of concept, not very many. Okay, this was my big aha moment for you, Heidi. I already had mine for Chloe. I was like, where is it going to come? Oh, no to self. Yes. What is the end goal and what does it look like, and articulating that and actually having this proof of concept, I think is a really key piece. Did I reflect well on that one for you, Heidi?
You did.
Okay.
Yes.
Sometimes I feel like proof of concepts are just not possible and can always slow things down. I mean, I've had bosses and clients where they are so much in the planning and strategy phase that they're not ever taking action or making a decision. I mean, now even breaking it down to like a social concept, like if you have a super long like wedding engagement, people take like months and months to find a venue and the perfect meal and the perfect band, where most likely their first choice is probably going to be just fine and provide the same amount of value. And so again, there is that balance of scope concept versus just doing it. And kind of, if you have a team, or if you know the team is agile enough to make those changes while actions already being taken. I mean, overall, there has to be, some type of box and goal. I do agree, but I don't think it needs to be this concrete box that every decision is made, and that maybe right now it's just a little squishy box. And we're going to slowly build it up and to be more defined as we figure things out and start to visualize things and start building things out. And then think, oh, that didn't work. Like you were saying before, Heidi, path A didn't work, so let's go down path B. Well, path B only took us, 2 miles down. We gotta go path C. But at least we're moving forward. Just at least making sure each decision is moving us forward.
I love the perspective you're coming from, Chloe. And the experience that you just shared is very common. A lot of the businesses that I work with on a regular basis, they are stuck. They're just stuck. Is this the right strategy? Is this the right time? And here's the thing, it's a fear of making a decision, because there's a fear of failure right there. And the more decisions are made and we hold to those decisions and we discern, does this fall into the decision? Does this not? The faster we get. Until an organization is willing to take that step, to fail, to go forward, they're never going to get fast at that. And they're never going to understand what their prototyping would look like, right? In my case, it's, I got a beginning, a middle, and an end. I throw it out to the team. We think about it for a week or talk about it over chat or email. And then we come back and I'm like, okay, what are the biggest questions? What are the biggest obstacles? What are the biggest opportunities? And sometimes I'm doing all that stuff. Sometimes the whole team is doing all of that. But then I can make the decision. Is it now or later? Or never? Now, later, never.
I mean, that's with me with my branding and like with personal branding, with helping build a company's brand. I want to create that persona. I want to know the gender. I want to know the age range. I want to know the interests of that persona, and to make, make that squishy box of goal setting. And it needs to fit this persona. And if it doesn't, out. If it does, sort of, let's see how we can make it even more, or maybe it's right on. And again, even though you have your point, maybe Z contact or point, you still don't know where, A to Y is going to lead you to.
Maybe an alphabet you've never heard of before.
A whole other language.
Who knows? That's exactly right. Something you haven't seen. All right. So I'd like to know, what makes it bold to integrate our failures into our future business decisions?
Plan, do, and review.
Ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. It's so concise.
That's it. It is.
I love it.
It.
It's bold.
Then,
plan, do, review.
After you review it, you make your changes, your adjustments, what works well, what didn't work so well, and then you plan it again, you do it, and then you review. And I think that can be going across all different types of businesses, between vendor booths or counseling or contracting or programming or whatever. It really is that simple.
I'm going to add to your plan, do and review. So totally plan, but also plan that review step. How are you going to review? How are you going to figure out, was this a fail or was this just a learning, also a learning opportunity as well. So totally agree, plan your review, do it big, take that action, do it now. And then, so review it. Maybe you've totally succeeded you have fallen on your butt, but at least you're not going to fall on your butt again. At least it's anyway. You're probably going to fall on your butt again. It's fine. It was good.
But not for that.
Yes, exactly.
You are listening to the voice of Bold Business Radio. This is program 200, What to Do with Failed Business Decisions. I told you, Heidi and Chloe and I would get deep in the mire and the muck and really share and really be honest. And guess what? 4 or 5 very clear themes came out of this. So if you can't list 4 or 5 clear themes, there's more for you to do. So just click rewind, listen again, save it for later, because through those failed business decisions, you're having experiences. And when you're talking about them with others, like we're talking here, or even our fear of failures, we are giving you some knowledge, and your conversation gives us knowledge. So we don't have to have the experience firsthand. We can just know other people have had it, and we can learn from that to adapt to our own situations, to our own goals, to our own objectives that we are planning, deciding, and sometimes when we are being given that as well. So practical application, that's what the voice of Bold Business is all about. Use radio@reddirection.com. Send us in those emails. We'll work them into our conversations. Also, #VBB Radio. Keep this conversation going. It's that defines what effective leadership means today. Don't forget, give Chloe and Heidi thumbs up, those plus signs, those 5-star reviews, whatever it is. When you took something away from this that you can use, it's a 5-star review. So make sure you review us wherever you're listening, which includes Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Facebook, you name it, we're on it. So subscribe. We'll see you next time. And let's keep this going. We do learn from our failed business decisions.
The voice of Bold Business Radio gives you insights about how to achieve your company's growth strategy. Use #VBBRadio or email us at radio@reddirection.com to ask questions and share your experiences. Add your voice to the conversation. Together, we define what being an effective leader means today. Special thanks to the Scott Treatment for technical production. Thank you for joining us.